Hello and welcome. I'm Joanna, and I'm so glad you're here. Have you ever found yourself quietly wondering, is this it? Not because life is bad, not because you're unhappy, but because somewhere deep inside you sense there's another chapter waiting. If that's where you find yourself today, I want you to know you're not alone. And perhaps, just as importantly, you're not behind. You don't have to have everything figured out. Sometimes a new chapter begins with one small act of kindness toward yourself. This is the first episode in the next journey, a four-part series where I'll be sharing the next framework that has helped me navigate one of the biggest transitions in my own life. I've also created a free reflection guide to accompany the series. It's simply an invitation to pause, to reflect, and to become curious about your own next chapter. Because while I can share my story, your story is the one that matters most. I've always believed that learning doesn't end when we leave school or retire from work. In fact, I think some of life's greatest lessons arrive in our later chapters. And that's why I'm not here as the sage on the stage. I'd much rather be your guide on the side. I don't have the answers for your next chapter, but perhaps I can walk beside you while you discover them for yourself. Today, I'd like to begin with the very first step. Nurture yourself first. When I say nurture, I'm not talking about adding another thing to your to-do list. To me, nurture means intentionally caring for yourself in ways that restore your energy, your confidence, and your sense of who you are so you're ready to embrace what's next. I like to think of it as preparing for possibility. That wasn't always how I thought about it, though. My husband worked for KLM for almost 43 years. As a family, we traveled back and forth across the Atlantic many, many times. So I've heard the airline safety announcement more times than I can count. In the event of an emergency, please put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others. I'll be honest, for a long time I didn't really like that message. It felt selfish. As a mom, your first thoughts are always for your children. You do anything, everything to protect them. So putting myself first, that didn't sit comfortably with me. Until one day it finally did. I realized that if I wasn't looking after myself, I wasn't much good to anyone else. That was a game changer. The message wasn't really about putting myself ahead of my family. It was making sure I had the strength, the energy, the confidence, and the capacity to be my very best so I could continue caring for the people I loved. That simple airline announcement has become one of the greatest life lessons I've ever learned. A few years later, my husband and I made one of our biggest decisions of our lives, and we decided to take early retirement. My husband, after 43 years with KLM, and me, after many, many years of happily teaching. We were leaving the Netherlands, our home of almost 30 years, and moving back to Canada. It was an exciting and scary time. Actually, those two emotions seem to arrive together quite often in my life. We were both in our early 60s, healthy, energetic, and aware that we still had the physical and emotional strength to take on something this big. We weren't just changing countries, we were changing communities, daily routines, friendships, our whole way of life. One question I remember asking myself was, will we make new friends? Children seem to do that so naturally. They arrive at a new school, and by lunchtime they've already made friends and have someone to play with. As adults, it's a little different. But we were ready, not because we had everything mapped out. There was actually something kind of exciting about not knowing exactly what would come next. Once we made our decision, the nurturing really began for me. I wanted to say goodbye well. I wanted to arrive in Canada feeling like the best version of myself that I could be. So I looked after myself intentionally. I ate well, exercised, cared for my spiritual life. I wanted to feel calm, grounded, healthy, strong. Not because I wanted to look a certain way. I simply wanted to look and feel my best, and that mattered to me. I've often said to myself, if I feel good about myself, I have the confidence to tackle the world. Perhaps you have your own version of that too. For me, even something as simple as having my colors done became part of nurturing myself. I discovered that simply knowing which colors complemented my hair and my eyes and my complexion helped me look and feel my best. And when I feel good about myself, I simply show up differently in the world with more confidence, more energy, and more self respect. For someone else, nurturing may look completely different, and that's okay because nurturing is personal. Joy also became part of nurturing myself too. Back then, joy looked like returning to Canada, seeing family again, hearing English all around me, rediscovering Canadian expressions, eh? Leaving room to discover what would come next. Today, joy looks different. It's hiking and kayaking with my daughter, coffee with a neighbor, a good book, a glass of wine, learning something new. One of the biggest discoveries for me was realizing that my identity wasn't tied to being a classroom teacher. Retirement didn't ask me to stop using my gifts. It simply invited me to use them in new ways. Working in a winery, volunteering, writing, podcasting. Who would have imagined that? I certainly didn't. I didn't see that coming. Perhaps that's what this season of life is inviting us all to discover too. Not a completely new person, but a new expression of who you've always been. Maybe nurturing yourself isn't about becoming someone different. Perhaps it's about remembering the woman you've always been. Goosebumps. Because she may be just the one who leads you into the next chapter. So I'd like to leave you with two questions today. The first comes from the reflection guide. What has been quietly calling to me lately? And the second, what do I need today to feel energized, supported, and connected to myself? Just sit with those questions this week. No pressure, no perfect answers, just curiosity. Because curiosity is often where new beginnings begin. Maybe nurturing yourself isn't the pause before your next chapter. Maybe it's the first page. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Next time, we're going to talk about something that has shaped much of my own life, embracing the unknown. Until then, stay curious, be kind to yourself, and keep shining a light on your next chapter. I'm Joanna Vervat.